Core Stories, Ordinary Marines, Extraordinary Lives.
Hey everybody, today I introduce you to Nate Cleary and Augustus. Nate is an extraordinary photographer. It's just come out of nowhere from my perspective. His exceptional talent as a photographer. Here at the end of his career, but I met him back in 2016 when he was detachment commander at the U.S. Embassy in Dublin. And he's got a beautiful little love story with his model wife, like legit model wife. And I can't even tell you how extraordinary his photography is. But the one wonderful thing that makes him such a wonderful innovator is he's developed his talent, and although he's doing shoots for LA Fashion Week and San Diego Fashion Week, he does shoots pro bono for these Marines who are medically retired, very young, who have these small ceremonies, and he celebrates them by providing professional photography for the event of their retirement. Anyway, check him out, and I'll catch you on the backside.
Oh my golly. Nate Cleary, it is wonderful to see you again. The last time I saw you, you were hosting me at the American Embassy in Dublin, and we had a big time. Didn't we have fun?
Yeah, it was definitely an adventure. I was glad to see you.
I got more support for the section of that story. Now, you'll have to forgive me because Core Stories has had a rebuild, and the 2 embassy stories I've written are not up at this moment, but they will be up when this podcast airs on Monday. How about that? Come hell or high water. Anyway, that was my first embassy story of Dublin and London of January 2016. And the story of that mock event at your embassy got so much love because it deserved to, because that was something to behold. It was something I learned much about your leadership and how your Marines respected you and looked to you, and it really touched my heart and that of my readers. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Normally these podcasts go, how did we get here? Where is here? And what's in the future? And I want this podcast with you to follow that. But I do want the readers and the viewers and listeners to know about your very early days in the Marine Corps, because I remember being blown away by your Marine Corps trajectory. Really extraordinary story of your service in the Marine Corps. I wonder if we could start there?
Yeah.
That would be great.
I joined in 2001, the beginning of the year, and at the time I had no idea what I wanted to do. 18 years old, no clue in life. So came from a family of Air Force and thought, why not do the military, but do something different? Joined the Marines. No idea what I wanted to do. I went infantry. Very, very interesting life. Over my time, I've had 5-6 combat deployments, Iraq, Afghanistan, along with, of course, my tour on embassy guard duty as a detachment commander for the Marines in the embassy security program. And that was 2 stations, one in Senegal, West Africa, and of course where we met in Dublin, Ireland.
Yeah. And I remembered that actually you were there for the invasion of Iraq. Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah, while I was in the infantry with the 1st Tank Battalion as anti-tank infantrymen, we were right there on the front lines of the invasion. It was a very crazy time, indeed.
Yeah. I'm sure that I can remember you saying about your time in Africa that the beaches were really unmatched, and I didn't even appreciate that. I hadn't appreciated that west coast of Africa really had such a splendid respite for our MSGs there. Yeah.
It was very nice, and the embassy was like right off the beach too. It was a little vacation.
I love it. Now, we reconnected a couple years back, and I think that you were preparing to retire from the Marine Corps at that time, and you were pursuing the project manager certification. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yeah. I was pursuing project management. Their certification in the US is known as PMP.
Yeah.
And it's a very tough certification
It
to
is.
get, but if you get it, the starting jobs are very well paid. And right now, that sort of field is very much in demand. That was pretty much my plan. I pursued and I received my certification in PMP, and then I went as well into the British version and got their certification as well, because they do things a little differently. I was all set for that career, whether it be in America or abroad.
Yeah. I remember you telling me that you and your beautiful wife really had fallen in love with the British Isles.
Yes.
And that you wanted to return there, even in Dublin, I think you told me that.
Yeah, I'm of Irish descent, and just being there, we were in love with the place. Green, beautiful, the people are friendly, and especially in Dublin, it's this really unique combination of being in a capital city, but still feeling, small and not pretentious. You could relax, you could walk around, as opposed to London, which is very much a big capital city, or New York.
Yeah.
And the old buildings, it was just beautiful.
It really surprised me when I came to see you. That was my first trip to Dublin. It was my first trip to Ireland. And I too had that same impression, that I couldn't believe how green it was for a capital city. It was just naturally lush. And I had the same experience of the people. It's like all of a sudden, everybody, the taxi driver, the bus driver, everybody you meet is like your new friend. You're going to see them again. You're going to know their name. They're going to remember you. And you can talk about politics. And I think that I was there on election day.
Oh, wow.
And I can remember waking up to the newspaper at the hotel showing them carrying the ballots, like the ballot box, the metal ballot box, like carrying it down the road, and I just thought, golly, this place is charming. It just was charming. Yeah. I completely value how your ancestral ties, and I don't think there's any place in the US really quite as beautiful as some places on the British Isles. And I could see why you two would be drawn back to there. That leads me to, now you're a photographer. I did not see that coming. But when I looked at your website, I have never seen a website beautiful in my life. And I talk about a dark horse, I had no idea that you were gifted with photography. Tell me how that came along.
Well, it was totally unexpected. As we talked about, I was pretty much fully focused on project management with the thought that I'm going to be a civilian soon and I need to take care of my family and I need to have a good job and, pay the bills. My wife is a model, and she had just started branching into fashion design. She's an artist. She was taking her designs and kind of putting them on clothing. Well, as a fashion designer, you work with photographers a lot. And, photographers, like every other professional, want to get paid. And sometimes there's different personalities. And she just had a new design. She wanted just something really like casual. And she handed me her camera and said, "Hey, can you just take a couple pictures for me?" So I was like, "Yeah, sure." I snapped a couple and it felt really good. And then I give them back to her and she says, "Oh, these are really great, babe." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. You're my wife. You have to say that. I want to do another shoot with you." And from there, it just exploded. I don't have a creative bone in my body before this. In high school, I took an art class. The best I got was 3D boxes. Our final project, we had to do we had to draw a family. I drew a family made out of 3D boxes. Their hair was 3D boxes. Their eyes were 3D boxes. That was it. That was all I could do. And to find this, it was just incredible. And I grew from there. I saved and got a professional camera, upgrading lenses, practicing in the area, and Within 6 months, I had a professional business. In less than a year, I was hired on by LA Fashion Week for their official photography team. And just this year now, I've been hired on for San Diego Fashion Week. They're doing a virtual program, and due to the size, they were only looking for one other photographer, and I made it.
Oh, my word.
I've done weddings, I've done runway shows, I've ran photography teams. It's just been a whirlwind. I've got something like 30 international publications, but probably the most inspiring to date is really everything I've done with the Marines, Wounded Warrior Battalion, and some of the other local units, being able to kind of share that and spread that.
Talk about your photography. Now, what I would like to do in a little while is to share my screen and go to the Dropbox photo link that you
With
and
the
then
million photo.
It's okay. And I would like you to walk us through them.
Okay.
But I'm not ready because I want to keep hearing story. So, Wounded Warrior Battalion. Talk to me about that season, that journey, that work.
I came to Wounded Warrior Battalion from MSG, being directly transferred there. There as a staff member. I was there to work, but I was there to kind of take care of myself. I have lots of deployments, lots of combat. Realized that I needed to take care of me a little bit and my mental health and my physical health, knowing that I was going to be out soon. So different treatments and processes for PTSD and TBI, learning more about myself, how I've adapted to some of the problems and stressors that I have, and ways to improve. One of the things that I found that was incredible for this was photography. With photography, you take the camera, put the lens up to your eye, and your whole world just shrinks to that. A lot of times in therapies, they talk about mindfulness, taking your mind off your problems. And that it was just like magic for me. I look through this lens, everything just fades away. It's just what's on that screen. And in photography, in professional photography, there's so many different technical aspects. It's not just point and shoot. When you're looking through that lens, I've got so many things in my mind, but they're all productive. They're all about this. Another common issue that a lot of people with PTSD have is control. Being in uncontrollable situations, feeling that loss of control. But when I have that camera in front of me, I control everything. I control the light, I can move, I can change the look. And it's just such a peaceful feeling with everything fading away, nothing on my mind except what's in front of me, and being able to control it the way that I need to for the shot. And it was just life-changing for me. Wounded Warrior Battalion itself is a wonderful place. It's not just combat injuries. You have people who are, they're injured in training. You have people who, psychological injuries, various things. It's not just, you think of, bombs and amputations. There's a whole range of.
Sure.
But with that, you get a whole range of personalities, a whole range of skill sets. And it's a really nice kind of melting pot. And I found it has just been a joy to be able to both learn and grow as a photographer and to contribute there. People are medically retired every week.
Yeah.
A lot of these Marines, they're junior Marines. They're on their first contract.
They're very young. Yeah.
And they don't have a big fancy ceremony with all the bells and whistles and hundreds of people going to see them. And it's just them, maybe their parents, a couple friends that they made, and definitely no professional photography. Being able to just show up and kind of make their day special and memorable and just see that look on their faces when they get these images. That has been amazing. In particular, they have an event called the Marine Corps Trials, which I don't really like the name because it doesn't give it justice to what the event is. The Marine Corps Trials is an annual event, and think of it like the Olympics. So, you have all these different competitions, but this is only for wounded service members or veterans.
Yep.
But it's not just Marines, it's international. You have teams coming from all over the world flying into Camp Pendleton for these, Olympics, track and field, discus, wheelchair basketball, archery. And you'll see some that are in wheelchairs, they're double amputees, triple amputees. You'll see others with various prosthetics. You'll have some that, maybe they have vision issues or, other things that aren't apparent, but it's just incredible to see all of these people, all of these veterans, these warriors from across the world coming together. And even though they're different teams and that everyone's competing, it is friendly. They have luau's, they have little get-togethers. I went with one of them on a San Diego, kind of like one of those little ocean tour things where they go out into the ocean and come back, harbor cruise. And everybody's hanging out. There's no, segregation in terms of national identity or anything like that. It's just great. And being able to support that as an official member of the media team has just been a blessing, because not only am I able to see these heroes and what they can accomplish, as far as overcoming their own adversaries and injuries, that's inspiring in itself, but I'm able to give them something. Yes. Because, just like with those retirements, they don't have professional photographers. They don't have someone who's there for them. You might have the base kind of photography, but it's much more limited. It's much less personal. And me knowing them and being able to integrate with them, and I'm not some stranger with a camera. I'm good.
You're one of them.
Yeah. I'm able to get a much more kind of candid interaction with them, and half of them, they're like Facebook profile pictures or Instagram pictures. I'll take for them at some event or another, and just seeing that has been just gratifying. And most recently, I have begun sharing my experiences and tools with others. I've found that there's a good amount of Marines with cameras, and being able to offer workshops for them. I've done different training sessions where I'm showing them how to use their camera. Maybe we're doing something on base or we're going off base, and usually they'll have their wife or their girlfriend will show up, and they'll be like the model. I'll have them, jumping up in the air or, running around or doing different things. We can play with the camera settings, freeze them in motion or get a nice blur, and being able to share that with them, because I've found it such a cathartic experience. And it doesn't end when I put down the camera, because I go back home and now I've got to edit or I've got to retouch. And that's a whole different thing in itself. But mindfulness, I'm just totally focused on this image and what I'm doing, and I can get lost in it. Yeah, I mean, I was messaging you, I think it was something like, midnight, 1 in the morning.
1 o'clock in the morning this morning, yeah.
Because I had a giveaway with another organization, and the military spouse or husband was deployed. They didn't get the wedding pictures. We did it's going to be a 2-part thing. We went down to La Jolla Beach and took these beautiful images.
The bride with the surf at sunset.
Yeah, and those were just the unedited kind of sneak peeks. Just that's about 10% of what it'll be. And then when the husband returns, we'll do another session with the two of them together. I was up until 1 or 2 in the morning last night, just, working on that. It's really easy to get lost in it. And the great thing is you're getting lost in something productive rather than lost in your traumas.
I want to stop you there and little unpack, a little rewind there, because, Nate, I don't know that I told you this, but I had severe PTSD from childhood trauma, and then but all personal trauma, not only one case of military trauma when I was in the Navy, but most of it was from childhood stuff and marital, domestic violence stuff. And then when I met you, I was still pretty sick, but I had, like a lot of people, I'd gotten sober and been sober a long time, 32 years now. And then, but in 2017, I got the stellate ganglion block, and that was my magic ticket. That cured me of 95% of my nightmares and flashbacks. But the reason I bring it up is because I'm very familiar with PTSD, and I'm usually very good at spotting it in other people, especially Marines. You know, I've been working with Marines for 22 years now, and writing about them that long, and I didn't have a hint of this with you. My impression of you was just, and I think I'm right, that you may have been sick, but there definitely was a very strong facet of you that's just a poster boy Marine, a senior non-commissioned officer. I mean, the way you interacted with me, but far more the way you interacted with embassy staff and with your Marines. I mean, that debt was devoted to you. And I'm processing this to think of you suffering all that time. It's something for me to think about that. And I am familiar with the Wounded Warrior Regiment, which I think has probably evolved wonderfully over the years. I think it's gotten better with time, as all things usually Marine Corps does. But the talent that we're talking about with your photography is like, you know, not normal, I don't think. So when you say that when you look into the lens, it's like the world goes away, that comes through in your photography. I mean, the photos are pleasant. It's a pleasant place to land looking at your art. And the colors, I don't know if it's the camera or the way you deal with the lighting, but I don't think editing could bring out the vibrancy I see in your photography. It's really inspiring. It's gorgeous. And I can't help but wonder, and I want to ask, is it possible that everything you've been through perhaps actually helps your photography? Makes you, I'm listening.
Something that I will tell some of the Marines when we're going through these workshops, but I don't tell, models and professionals, and you'll understand why when I say it, is there's actually a lot of parallels between photography and using a rifle.
Oh, tell me. I love that kind of thing. Come on.
When you're going through, your various combat training, your rifle training, you learn about, things like breath control, being able to sight in properly with your eyes, trigger control, body stability, things like that. And it's exactly the same with the camera. You want a steady shot. If you're just breathing up and down, you're not gonna get that steady shot. You gotta inhale, exhale, natural. That sight picture, sight alignment is the same thing. It's the same principle. That kind of focus that you need to have, it's not a rifle, but it's a similar mechanism. Pull the trigger, shoot the gun, push the button, shoot the camera. It's been very easy, not necessarily to understand the deeper details of photography settings and stuff like that, but the concept of it itself for a military mind is actually very familiar. And I found that there's something about when Marines, I say Marines, but probably really all service members, when you're deployed, you've got your rifle on you pretty much 24/7. And one of the most common things when you get back from a deployment that Marines feel weird about, there's two things really. One is that they don't have a gas mask attached to their hip anymore, but the other is their rifle. And it's very common, your first 1, 2, 3, 8 weeks back from the deployment, you wake up and you're in a little bit of a panic. You're like, where's my rifle?
Right.
And then there's just a certain feeling of safety, of confidence with it.
Certainly.
Dealing with PTSD, most people have issues with crowds.
Yes.
I don't like big crowds. I don't like, being in elevators, there's a feeling of powerlessness there, of defenselessness. It's very stressful. I found that just holding the camera gives me that same feeling of confidence and serenity as a rifle.
Yeah.
I can be in an elevator with 8 people without a camera, and I'm just stressed out. I'm sweating, I'm shaky. But if I have the camera, I can go to a fashion show with like 1,000 people.
1,000 people in a crowded.
I feel fine. I feel great.
Amazing.
So I've got my rifle.
Yeah.
And
Got my weapon here. Yeah.
it works.
Yeah. I could see that. I wouldn't have put it together, but of course it makes a tremendous amount of sense, especially that shutter business.
You can see why maybe if you're talking to a model doesn't want to hear the veteran Marine Corps photographer saying that when they put the camera up to their eye, they're imagining it's a rifle. And, that's something that I really only share with the veteran community.
Well, I hear you say that, but I wonder if you don't come to the table in those communities with skills that really do benefit your relationship with them. Certainly, as being in the MSG program, there's a lot of diplomacy.
Yes, that is true. And the fashion industry in particular, I say fashion industry because as a photographer, professionals will generally specialize in one field or another. You're really not going to be successful trying to do everything. In the fashion industry, which I try to focus on, you have a lot of personalities. You have a lot of ego.
Yeah.
Much like you would in like the Hollywood industries and things like that. And there's definitely an art of diplomacy in that.
Yeah. I think there's, in that world, appearance, bearing are very important. And, Marines just have a certain panache. They do. They really do. And I would imagine that, or gravitas, maybe gravitas is a better word, sort of a grounded, I don't know how to, you know what I mean. And I think in that world, when they're visual, these are completely visually oriented people, no matter what part of that industry they are in, they would be comfortable with you because of your gravitas, because of your poster boy Marine, you just have that, but I wonder, talk to me about your wife. Now, when we met, I have not met her, but you talked about her much. I felt like I had met her. And she, from the pictures I have seen then and now, that Marine Corps ball picture that I include in the story from back then is just classic. So how has she, you guys have been married a while now. How long have y'all been married?
Let's see, April of 2011, 9 years.
9 years, I love it. And I remember asking you how you met, and I remember your response. Can I say it here?
Yeah.
You were on social media, and one of your friends had a picture of her on their feed.
Yeah.
And you reached out to him and you said, "She is gorgeous." I remember that clearly. And that was that, right? Basically.
Pretty much what I thought was just a private conversation between a Marine and his corpsman friend. He being the mischievous sailor that he is, decided to copy that conversation and paste it on her Facebook wall.
He did not.
And I did not know this because, me and her weren't
Facebook friends. I see.
I had never spoken with her. And all of a sudden one day I get a friend request from her. And the first thing I think is, "Sean, what did you do?" And then it all kind of came out, and she had a lot of fun just messing with me. But I must have done something right because, we fell in love, and it's just been nonstop. In terms of where I'm at now with this, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. And not even just that initial spark, but just in this whole process. As a as a model and as a designer, she's taught me much about the field and about the perspective of the model and of the designer, how to be able to not just think about myself as a photographer, but put myself in their shoes, get their mindset, which has been extremely helpful. We kind of have our own joint venture together where we combine our talents. So she provides, model coaching, creative direction, things like that. I'll provide the photography. Sometimes we'll do workshops with a youth model or a newer model, and she'll be showing them how to model or how to pose, and working with the lighting and wherever the camera is and things like that. Or we'll do a professional shoot for a magazine, and she might be the model, but often she won't be, and she'll be the stylist, and she'll put together these amazing creative concepts, and it'll just turn out beautifully. The way that I kind of describe it is, like she is designing this castle and I'm building it. I'm shaping it, and it's been a wonderful team. And when you talk about like gravitas and personality, there's a lot of creeps in this industry, especially with photographers. And I like to think that my natural personality is calming and disarming, but it definitely doesn't hurt being a husband and wife team, because it instantly makes people feel more comfortable.
They instantly trust you. Yeah, of course. I hadn't even appreciated that angle of it. Okay, Nate, let's go through some of these.
This was actually one of our earlier shoots together. Those leggings are her design. And then she styled this whole shoot with this model. This was kind of a sci-fi themed shoot that we did in LA. Very kind of retro, very kind of like spacey. And I think that was actually our first publication. And coincidentally, that was from a Scottish fashion magazine. That was kind of a cool, foretelling for us for moving to Scotland.
It's very 60s Brit. I can see it. Totally. Okay.
And then this was from Palm Springs Fashion Week. This was a beautiful show. It was outside, which is fairly unusual for the more professional fashion shows, because, it can rain, it can, lots of things can happen, but in Palm Springs, beautiful sunsets. And that model, her name is Kat, and we actually connected with her, and we've done several shoots with her in the LA area for various magazines, and I would say have made a really good friend.
The color.
Yeah.
That, that neon green, but the way the sunset plays, I love it so much. Okay.
From the same fashion show, Palm Springs Fashion Week, that was a really different kind of designer. It's all tape. Everything is made from tape, various designs. Yeah, and as you can see, that some of them are very reflective, so very, very artsy, very cool for that kind of setting. This was with my wife as well. This was another magazine shoot in LA. This was with a professional model that we had hired, and so my wife got the outfits, styling, because you have different looks, different outfits. It's not just one outfit. You've got to mix it up. And yeah, kind of set her up, kind of directed her where to go, and it was a big hit.
Beautiful. I love the black and white. That's just gorgeous. Oh, here we are.
This was probably one of the less exciting adventures for my wife. This was a Marine Corps ball, and for anyone who's been to the Marine Corps ball, it's a crazy blur of an event, but the photography portion, you're waiting in line, people are drinking, people are loud. It's kind of a crazy situation in itself. And my wife, bless her heart, had agreed to kind of work at the table, filling out the order forms and things like that. And, drunk Marines are very interesting. Not great at paperwork. She She felt a little stressed there. Meanwhile, I'm standing behind the camera just saying, beautiful. Oh, I love it. I love it. That's great. Yes, just like that. Like I'm very appreciative of her, but that's not one of her fondest memories. This was the Marine Corps trials. They were preparing for this was wheelchair rugby. One of the things as a photographer, when you're setting up, you want to get your camera settings aligned, much like you would with the rifle. So I'm kind of walking around and I'm checking out the lighting and balancing camera settings, and they were just waiting to start. And I thought, you know what, this would be cool to get right behind them. And yeah, that was Team Canada.
I love the first of all, I do think that athletic sports photography is a whole different thing.
Oh yeah.
It's just hard. I mean, you just don't ever get a second chance.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the composition of this. I mean, this just tells much story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love this.
This was a family portrait.
Wife over here, she's gorgeous.
And that's her family. After we moved here and we started setting things up, I started building a indoor studio in our second bedroom. And so, we had our backdrop set up, had the lights set up, and this was kind of one of our earlier sessions. So family came up for the holidays and just had a nice time kind of, posing them around and having them do goofy things. We had a lot of silly stuff with Christmas ornaments, and it was just a great time.
They look very aristocratic. They do. They really do.
Well, they're from Finland, and the Finns don't smile a lot. Pretty much, they're normal. And
this picture, I have to stop you because this picture, when I saw it, I'm like, I'm drinking again. I'm going back to drink because this is delicious. The whole thing is gorgeous. The setup, the time of day, his expression. Go ahead.
Actually, speaking of Finland, this was the Finnish consulate in LA. They had hired me for a big event that they had, and they had just beautiful blue lighting everywhere. Actually difficult for photography, but made for some really creative shots. And this guy was just a real team player, and I was just super excited with the lights that they had inside the bar and the way everything glowed. And I would say that picture just really captured the mood of the whole event, because one thing that Finns like to do, much like Americans, is drink. Into a kind of private environment, they become very boisterous. This event was just tons of people running around laughing, smiling, and being silly. Totally not Finnish.
It's a beautiful, beautiful picture.
That was from the same event. I often do a lot of red carpet type things. I started with some of the fashion weeks, but then with La Jolla International Film Festival, San Diego International Film Festival, I found that the red carpets are just a really big part of it. So I built that into my brand, and it's always nice to get, just happy, candid photos of people.
Beautiful. Yeah, they're beautiful smiles. Look how comfortable they are in front of you, though. That's the amazing thing. Yeah. Here we go.
Yes, back to the Marine Corps trials. Annika Hutzler, not Hustler. She is an incredible individual. So she, as you can tell, had a amputation and prosthetic, but I've known her for a couple years now, and kind of seeing her when she got to Winter Warrior Battalion and seeing her dealing with the amputation and just all the things that go through your mind with that, how she took that adversity and turned it into strength. And if you look at her like social media and stuff now, it's just incredible how she has grown and overcome this. And you'll probably actually see a couple images with her in them, because she does not let that hinder her at all. That she has made that a part of her identity and a source of strength. And it's just been incredible to see, and such a blessing to be able to capture.
This is such a beautiful photo, and it speaks to me on many levels. Just that Marine Corps background, the Marines in the background, I can see that that's a Marine in the background. But the light on their faces, her like fun sunglasses, even though this is obviously a very competitive event, that talks a lot about her personality. But the fact that nobody's touching the ground on that track, that shot has caught both of these runners midair. Oh, I love it. Okay.
This was a engagement session that I did for a couple in LA. They wanted to do an engagement shoot, but they didn't want to do the usual, like, oh, let's go to the beach and whatever. They asked me about studios. We traveled to LA to one of the kind of more artsy studios. And this actually wasn't a planned shot. This was just her kind of getting ready, getting her makeup and everything. But I had already finished, the camera and everything was set up, and I walked over and I thought, oh, that's just perfect. And, one of those shots that just kind of accidentally happened.
Yeah, that moped in the background. Is that a moped? That is just adds so much feel to the whole thing.
We're back to the Marine Corps trials. This was a Marine from the Wounded Warrior East Coast getting ready for one of their relay races. You can see, the Marines who are running, and then we have Marines in the wheelchairs, and another just really inspiring thing to see.
This is your dog.
Yes, it is. We went on a little Thanksgiving adventure, and, from time to time, I'll take my camera with me, and she had never been to the beach before. I really wanted to get a picture of that, and it was worth it.
She's like, what are we doing here? What is this? Much curiosity.
And excited, and she didn't know what to think. There's people everywhere. This water's moving around. What's this like? It was a good time for her.
Who are these two?
This was another couple who just got engaged. And this was at a winery, just getting some nice candid shots. And as you've noticed, I tend to focus on vibrancy a little bit.
I love that.
There's such a lack of vibrancy, not in like the Marine Corps itself, but just combat, and there's just a draining feeling. And I definitely found that with photography, I kind of try to bring that vibrancy back a little bit, at least for me. And generally the clients seem to enjoy it.
Oh, I find myself very responsive to blues. And anything that contrasts nicely with blues. Blue gold is like, that's my happy place visually. This is beautiful to me on so many levels. But again, both people in the shot are just comfortable. I eat that up.
And another family session here. For this one, this was a Christmas. It doesn't look like Christmas.
Christmas in California.
It's still in California for you. But the son, he wasn't in the military. He was in college, but he was going to school somewhere on the East Coast. They were back together for the holidays, and they wanted to get a nice family session, while everybody was still together. And it was a really nice session.
Beautiful.
Lots of love.
Beautiful.
This was a school shoot. So I partnered with another photographer, and sometimes we'll go to various schools, not now with the pandemic, but before, and taking the school portraits, senior portraits, things like that. We bring our backdrops and we bring our lights. And one of the things that I've learned is interacting with kids is kind of a lot like interacting with Marines. It's that, like, you kind of have to be creative with how you get their attention.
That's right. Not their attention.
Yeah.
Sass. I love her sass. But
yeah. So often what I do, and with adult photography, you want to try to kind of get a sense for the person's personality. That's the same thing for kids. I'm talking to this girl, and I'm asking her, like, what her favorite shows are, what her favorite movies are, and Avengers. I'm like, oh, you seen the last one? And she's like, oh yeah, I love it. And I'm like, okay, let's see you do that Thanos snap, where he like snaps his fingers and like everybody goes away. And she was all about it. That was that shot.
I love it. I love it. Wow, another huge story in a photo.
Yeah, there we go back to Hutzler, who has a different prosthetic on now. One of the things that she found was a big help for her was archery. And she was very competitive in the archery competitions. And I took that shot just kind of seeing the background and her standing there with the bow and just thinking that that is a great image of strength and overcoming adversity.
Yeah.
But here she is essentially in a kind of combat related scenario with her prosthetic leg, and she's still succeeding, she's still thriving. And as you can see, she's got her own personal touch with that prosthetic. Very fun personality.
I love it. I love her. I can tell you that right now.
Wow.
This was a local San Diego fashion show that I had done for a designer. It was her first fashion show it was right across the street from the Miramar base. But it was really fun to see because there are a lot of designers that the San Diego seems a little smaller than LA. Sometimes you don't see all the designers, unless there's some kind of event. And this was really a nice way to see the creativity of San Diego.
But it's a great shot because of the interest in the crowd. I love that dress, but just that everybody's talking, everybody's really engaged in that. Yeah, beautiful. Is this Hutzler again?
No, that is
Someone else?
Another Marine from Wounded Warrior Battalion West, back in the archery. But I really liked that shot because I had the arrow kind of captured in mid.
Caught in the midair. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. When I sometimes Marines, the Marine Corps Flickr page has this with weapons training, and you see the cartridge flying.
Yeah, it's tough to get.
It is tough to get.
When you get it. And this was a similar one. She was really happy because she was the only left-handed shooter around, and the way that the sun was facing, for everybody else the sun was on their back, but for her it was on her just perfectly. She was loving the camera and hamming it up whenever she got the chance.
Does the Marine Corps support all of this effort by the regiment? What an opportunity. Man, I'm sure that Marines from bygone eras wish they had that kind of opportunity. Yeah, Beautiful thing.
Yeah, another one of the school photos, obviously not a child. This was the mom sat down and I snapped a quick photo of her, and just something fun for the family.
Beautiful. Yeah, very, very beautiful. Wow, my goodness.
Back to the fashion shows again. This was his first fashion show, his first runway. He was super nervous, and we got some kind of candid, like behind the scenes kind of shots, and chatted, gave him advice, talked about the industry. Now he's like super huge, million people on Instagram, and
I can see why. Good Lord, he's breathtaking, really handsome. Yeah. Oh.
And now there we have Hutzler. This was her medical retirement ceremony. Here she is. She's kind of sitting and she's kind of looking back at all of her friends and family that showed up to support her.
Those freckles are beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's really lovely.
And then that was her one of her section leaders, one of the kind of Marines that help them out. Just it's always great to see how much support these Marines get from the people that they work with, and it's not just like a check in the box, or these Marines, they really care. Now, this was the end of her medical retirement. You actually have on the left the Marine with the glasses. She was in one of those archery photos before with the arrow in mid-flight. The Marine on the right, I believe I've got some other images of her from her medical retirement. And so, this was just like a fun group photo, and just kind of showing how much she's adapted to who she is. She always has fun with her prosthetic. And so they're holding up the prosthetic boot like it's, a prop or something, and, just having a great time.
That's beautiful. The expressions on their face are beautiful. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Now, this was for the Marine Corps trials, what I thought was going to be the most miserable day, because it was all pool events, but it was pouring rain.
Okay.
It was just awful. Everyone's in raincoats. There's like tents everywhere. The wind is blowing, and camera equipment is pretty expensive. I was already a little,
Nervous.
and I didn't know how the images would turn out because it was dark and it was gloomy. But I'd been covering every other day there, and I wanted to be there for the Marines for this. And I got soaked. I had like a little bag around my camera, and I was actually really, really surprised with how well it went. And the veterans, the service members, they adapted and they overcame. And what started as a miserable morning turned out to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of light in that photo.
Yeah.
Oh, you did good work there. Wow.
This was one of our fashion shoots for my wife's clothing line. So, going to LA and just having fun with some of the beautiful studios there. She does some modeling, but she's a singer. She's an artist up in LA. She's collaborated with us a couple times on shoots because she loves the publicity of, being in a magazine, but the kind of like, it's just fun to kind of dress up and take cool photos, and it's kind of everybody wins.
Yeah. Now, your wife designed the leggings. Did she design the blazer too?
No, she styled all of them, but at the time it was just her leggings that she focused on.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And that's that same
From the San Diego.
from the Palm Springs. So the neon, that's that same model. Now we've connected a few times for different shows and different shoots, and just always a lot of fun.
That is beautiful. She is beautiful. Goodness.
And back to that, the swimming event for the Marine Corps trials. This you wouldn't recognize her just from flipping through, but earlier we had a picture of a Marine on the track on the wheelchair, and that's that same Marine. Here, she was competing in the wheelchair race, and now she's getting ready to dive, and as you can see, she's very in the zone.
Wow. Can you imagine the courage it takes to do all of that? I mean, with the physical limitations, it's just extraordinary.
Yeah. And they're working. They're hustling, they're sweating, the wheelchair events, sometimes it's kind of like bumper cars are running into each other. Sometimes they'll, fall over, and, everybody will stop and kind of, get everyone back. You have people watching, you've got lots of cameras, you've got all the lights on you. It's such a like self-aware kind of moment that you've got to be okay with things, and these Marines, these service members, they've been great.
Wow.
This was a nice little senior portrait session that I did for a local here in the area. She brought her cap and gown, and we actually went through a few different locations. She wanted to hit all of her like favorite kind of hangouts before she went to college and left the area. We traveled all around the little town that she lived in and got all these nice little moments for her to kind of remember before she left.
Lovely. Wow.
And this was from the San Diego International Film Festival. So they've got a lot of kind of like nighttime events, and this was one of the kind of like more vibrant ones that they had with crazy lighting and stuff like that. We had some live music and just getting some great shots.
Clear, Nate. Clear. That's a great photo.
Yes, this was a private session for a Nordic businessman. It might have been Norway. Yeah. He had a very successful business. He had just gotten his American citizenship, and he had turned 60. He threw this huge party for his birthday, essentially. And being Nordic, there was a lot of Viking themes, and it was a really crazy night. Yeah, lots of kind of American flag, red, white, and blue outfits, supporting the American citizenship, and it was a lot of fun.
Wow.
Now here we have LA Fashion Week, and those in the fashion industry would recognize her. That's Coco Rocha, and she is huge in the modeling and fashion industry. Being able to see her, walking the runway and being right there was incredible. It was, I mean, she's a star. Like,
Can see why.
yeah.
Blimey. So much style. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh.
One of my recent medical retirements, this Marine, she could barely talk. She was just getting choked up. Her husband is Marine, and he was there in his uniform, and family and friends. It was just, it was a beautiful moment for her, and it really made me happy to be able to support that for her.
I know it did. Oh, I love that she's looking at your camera rather than at the phone camera. Yeah, I love that. Oh,
A little bit of a gloomy day. You can kind of see the rain falling down in the background, but you couldn't tell by the expression on her face.
that's amazing. That's pretty cool. But you are right. Didn't dampen her spirit at all.
Yeah. Another military retirement, medical retirement, not raining. California can be colorful when the weather's nice.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
That is
he had
really
his
beautiful.
whole family there. It just lovely.
The color, for me, it's the colors is vibrant. Wow, that's nice composition.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun.
Who are these three guys?
This was from the Marine Corps trials. This was when we had that little like boat tour. They finished the boat tour and then had a little kind of day trip in downtown San Diego. This was in Little Italy. They had lunch. You can kind of see in the back there's a table. They were giving out kind of like free, merchandise and stuff for the veterans. I don't remember which country they were from, not US, but they'd never been to San Diego before. For them being in downtown San Diego, and they had a huge reception. There was a band there was flags. It was just a really cool experience for everyone. And this was for our opening ceremonies. We would have our Marines, our color guard for Wounded Warrior Battalion, and then you've got, I believe that's Canada right here. And then you can even see in the far background a couple other countries kind of lining up. The opening ceremonies, they would all kind of like march up and have their own little thing.
Maybe England and Ireland. Wouldn't that be something? Okay. Oh.
This was backstage from LA Fashion Week. Another model I've worked with a few times, a youth model, just super talented, but being able to get some of those like candid, maybe not candid, she might be posing a little bit, but some of those like backstage shots can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, she may be posing a little bit, but her eyes are definitely focused on something. Yeah, she's thinking about something there.
And this was one of our earlier publications. This might have been our first cover. This was, my wife did a little bit of modeling. That's not her.
No.
But mainly she styled and did creative directing for the whole shoot. And it was really exciting to see that it made the cover of the magazine.
Beautiful, really beautiful. Wow.
Yes, another one of our other published shoots. This model, Selena, she is just a superstar in the San Diego area. We've been really lucky to be able to work with her so much. Very talented, the way that she moves, her hands and her facial expressions, it's crazy to see what some of these models can do.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And then this was one of our more recent ones, another with a youth model. She had kind of just started modeling, had just joined an agency, but being a youth model, her mom is very, very particular about who she works with. And being part of an agency, the agencies are very particular. It was really neat to be able to work with her. This ended up being her first cover shoot. And it was really cool because the makeup artist we used was a military spouse.
Oh.
It was a really nice kind of collaboration there.
Beautiful. That's just like looking into the eyes of a tiger. Wow.
It's the cover. And I've actually gotten her into a fashion show since then. We've kind of kept in contact. and working on seeing if we can get her into San Diego Fashion Week as well.
Gorgeous.
Now this
She said, those eyes give her away every time.
Yeah, it was originally just like a fun beauty session in our second bedroom studio, our home studio. But the pictures, were so cool that we submitted them for publication and they were accepted. And here we have my wife's fashion line again. This was a kind of like a bee patterned leggings. And we had this model, we're in LA. And, I mentioned that for these shoots, they want different looks. For this one, we kind of had an evolution of, she's starting out in this like athletic attire. She's doing all these like athletic things, but then she's changing into a glam look and, kind of continuing to, kick butt.
Oh my word. I see now. Yeah. Golly. God was kind to her, wasn't he?
Yeah. There's a little bit more the leather jacket and then you transition over and it's a little bit more of a formal kind of outfit, but then she's still got like sporty shoes on, and yeah, it was a fun one.
That's amazing photo.
Yes. Clearly LA Fashion Week, this was while I was part of their official team, and I wanted to get some different angles. I kind of went up into the VIP area and just got some really cool shots with the crowd and everyone.
Yeah, but the light and vibrancy. Oh, wow. I love the setting in this one.
Yeah, this was a local park, and this was actually that makeup artist, the military spouse. We had her, she does a little bit of modeling as well. So one of our good friends, her husband was actually one of the first ones that I gave photography lessons to. And we went out and we just had fun, just kind of hamming it up in the fields, and pictures turned out great. Another
you're beautiful. That's when your dog was a puppy.
Not our dog.
No?
That was a fox. Yeah. Our dog thinks that she's that small, but this was at a fox conservation center. So we had a model come down from LA, another youth model. This girl is like 6'3" and she's like 16 years old. So she's gonna be a giant when she's grown up. But yeah, we just had like a fun kind of session with foxes, and it's not pictured here, but my wife had some fox and wolf styled leggings that kind of went with the theme, and it was much fun holding these little foxes and like posing with them. And
I've never seen a fox that color before.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But it has the same eyes as your dog. Very similar eyes. Wow, there she is. Yeah. Yeah,
that was the 2-page spread. When it goes to the next picture, it'll show the other half. And that was just really cool to see how they split it into the 2 pages.
That is cool. Wow. That's pretty amazing.
And she had never been in a magazine before. To be in, not only to be in one, but to be on the cover was really cool for her.
Yeah, I bet. She's beautiful.
Clearly, when you have your wife as a model, you're going to have a lot of pictures of her. So we've had many adventures together on camera, and this is where we are experimenting with different colored lights. And we had our makeup artist, the military spouse, join in, and just got some really cool, fun stuff.
Beautiful. It's very unusual, but I do love the idea of, in these kinds of arrangements, these textured reflective things put on their face, like not makeup, not a tattoo, but it's something beautiful and temporary, but beautiful, really.
Yeah, we wanted to have a nice contrast between kind of like the red and the blue. And we had them both going for different looks, and it came out really nicely for the magazine.
Wow.
And we've seen her earlier with one of the other publications. This was a cover that we had with her. This was in Balboa Park, which is just, anyone who goes to San Diego has to go to Balboa Park. It's just beautiful.
Like an arboretum, or?
Yeah, their little like botanical garden thing. Very interesting because it's a public place. You go in there and there's families and there's people walking around, and you know, as an average Joe, you're walking around looking at plants, and you turn the corner and you see this little fashion shoot going on, and
Oh,
it's always interesting. This was with another publication, and we wanted to go for a little bit more of like a spunky rebel kind of look. We had this girl, her hair is all messed up, and you know, kind of like a 80s punk lipstick.
I was gonna say 80s or 90s. Yeah. That grunge thing. Okay, yeah.
My wife styled everything. She's going online. She's, you know, looking at these vintage clothing shops, and just, it was a really creative session.
I love it. I love it.
This was, I think I had a couple other pictures in there, but it was those two models together. We wanted to have two different ones, both with different leggings made by my wife, and we kind of paired them together, and it was really interesting because we have the model and we have the musician, and they both had kind of very different like posing styles and ways of doing things, but being able to like merge them together was really fun.
Wow.
And then this was one with my wife. We were just playing around with this. This is actually in our neighborhood, but my wife can, like, I mean, my back hurts just looking at
that.
Yeah. Apparently it didn't hurt the backs of the people in the magazine because they liked it.
I bet they did. That's amazing. That wig is crazy. But my golly, I mean, oh my word. I love it though. That's it, I guess. 65 isn't coming up here.
And that there is my wife with one of our more fun cover publications. This was with a couple other models. We had 3 all together, one of the crazy LA studios, and my wife loves those like candies with like the scorpions and the things in them. I think they're disgusting. Part of this was a little bit of having fun with me, showing off, you know, all these like poses with the different, you know, bugs and stuff, but it turned out to be fun. I love seeing all of your critters in the background.
They have a tremendous amount of opinion, Nate.
Well, I think we got through plenty.
Yeah, got through plenty. Okay, now, where do you go from here? You say you're moving to Scotland. Like,
Yeah.
talk about that.
Originally planning on project management, there was no passion for it.
Right.
And when I discovered this and discovered that I could be successful at it, we kind of talked about, what about trying to focus on this? You know, we're never going to be rich off of photography. That is, if anyone tells you that they think it's a high-paying job, they're crazy. But, you know, you have military retirement, and just kind of talking about what's more important, you know, to be happy, and maybe even as a couple being able to work together.
I love it.
Or having that high, you know, big paycheck, but being gone 60 hours a week.
It being miserable. It being miserable is the main
Yeah,
thing.
we decided, you know what, let's take a chance, you know, let's explore this creative venture. And our plans have been all over the place. First, we were going to move to LA because obviously that's a big hub. But then we decided, you know, that's a little bit too expensive. Let's try something different. Then we looked at Vegas, because Vegas is growing in everything. But then we thought, you know what, the crime, the heat, like that kind of stinks.
Yeah.
And then we read an article about Dallas and how in the next 10 years, you know, Dallas is supposed to be like the next LA, the next fashion hub, because everybody's leaving California.
For Texas, yeah.
And for military benefits, Texas is just great.
Crazy, yeah. It's wonderful.
And then COVID happened.
Right.
And the fashion and photography industry, it has always been a fragile industry. But COVID has just kind of shut everything down.
Yes.
And, you know, we talked about it, and we were like, what happens if we go to Texas and things are still down?
Yeah.
You know, we're in Dallas, it's hot, it's humid. We don't know anyone in Texas. We don't have family in Texas. It was purely a business decision. And we were like, if we go to Texas and there's nothing, like we're sitting in Texas in the
We're
heat.
stuck, right. And we're stuck in Texas, yeah.
We said, okay, where could we go that we'd have fun? where, there wasn't any, if there wasn't any business going on, where could we go? And we're both world travelers. And the first thing we thought of was Dublin, because we love Dublin. Unfortunately, Dublin's a pretty expensive place. Pretty much on par with Southern California. We looked around and we saw Scotland, and we visited Scotland, very similar to in Ireland in general.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it's much, much better cost of living.
Yeah.
And they've got some great schools. They've got where they filmed Harry Potter, Hogwarts, that's in Glasgow. They've got some great fine art photography schools, fashion schools for my wife as well. And we thought, you know what, let's see.
There's some great universities there. Yeah.
And our budget works. And we were like, okay, let's do it. We're going to go to Glasgow, to Scotland at the end of the year after retiring. And if things work out, that's great. But if not, we're in a beautiful place and it's easy to travel.
Yeah, I love it. I can see it. I can see y'all there. And I've only been to Scotland once, and that was, I've been studying at the London School of Economics this past year, which is before the COVID was modular. Like you go for a couple weeks and you're home for a couple months and you go back like that. But now it's online. It's going to finish online. But, London is my favorite city in the world. England I'm a very proud American, very proud. But I think America has grandeur visually, but I don't think the beauty compares to the British Isles. I don't think anywhere in the U.S. is as beautiful as some of the places in England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland. I mean, it's surreal to me. Yeah. To my eye, it's not earthly. I love visiting there. I'm there all the time. And I hope, of course, that once y'all move, you're going to, let me come and have coffee with you up there, because I take the train. So there's a 4-hour train out of King's Cross, London, that'll fly you right up to Edinburgh. Now, it's not Glasgow, but I'm just saying that it's definitely doable. And speaking of photography, I'm not a professional photographer at all, but I had one of the luckiest photo experiences of my life on that train that's going 150 miles an hour or something like that. And I just held the camera up as the coast is whatever going by, and I just held the shutter down. That's all it is. And one of the photos was of the sign that says Edinburgh 50 miles. I mean, there's no way I could have ever planned or intentionally caught that sign at that speed. It just wouldn't have happened. So I was there in the winter, and it was cold, but I loved it. I love the feel of it. It's definitely feels sort of like it feels like Harry Potter. I mean, I know that Harry Potter is fiction, but Scotland it's dramatic and gorgeous, and you feel like you're insulated from the rest of the world when you're there. At least I did. Yeah, I could see you two there. But I remember you saying that your wife was such a great sport in your travels in the Marine Corps, and I could see y'all.
We're looking forward to it. She's got family in Europe, and like you said, that whole area, the hills, the old castles, it's just beautiful, and just really looking forward to that like insulated feeling.
Yeah, especially Scotland. I mean, nobody goes to Scotland by accident, I mean, I can definitely see it. I love it so much. I'm happy for you, and it's been enlightening to reconnect and to hear the road you have taken since we first met. It's surprising to me, not Marines, this is what I live for. The whole point of this series is how innovative Marines can be. And I'm really trying to show the world the Marines, the way I see the Marine Corps, the way I see Marines. And for instance, you coming up with this little entrepreneurial project of saying, hey, I've discovered this talent I have, and I want to share it with Marines. The point is that, Nate, it's just been beautiful to reconnect with you, and I'm going to watch. I'm watching here. I'm going to see what happens with you because I'm really looking forward to it. But I'm going to wind up on your doorstep or somewhere nearby in Scotland, I'm hoping, at the beginning of the year, because I'm going back to London really as soon as it's safe to go, which I'm thinking will be January. I'm going to come up with some excuse and go and spend a couple of weeks in the UK.
Well, it will be great to see you up there. Great to reconnect again, kind of all over the world as we've been doing. And, you'll see some stuff from London Fashion Week or Paris Fashion Week. I'm definitely looking forward to that.
I love it. And Nate, you're an inspiration. You're a huge inspiration, and your love story is a lovely little inspiration too. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Glad.
All right, Nate. I'm getting teary here. All right, thank you again, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah, looking forward to meeting you again on the other side of the world.
That's exactly right. Once again.
Thank you so much for hanging out through that beautiful podcast and all that beautiful art. And reach out to Nate Cleary if you need some photography before he ships off to Scotland at the end of the year. Thank you for listening and viewing Core Stories Innovators. Hit the subscribe button, please. And we'll catch you the next time. Semper Fidelis.
Core Stories. Ordinary Marines, Extraordinary Lives.